The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan are one of New York's largest independently owned insurance agencies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Worldwide. Welcome, everyone, to the December meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Please rise while Supervisor Merlino leads us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The clerk will read the roll.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Here. Mr. Loeb?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Here. Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan? Here. Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Molino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Sokol?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde? Here. Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Conover?
Here. You should all have received copies of our minutes of November 1 and November 15. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the minutes of November 1. Mrs. Simpson, Mr. Dickinson on the second. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the minutes of November 1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the minutes of November 15. Mr. Thomas, Mr. Dickinson on the second. Discussion? Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the minutes of November 15 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I will now declare a public hearing open on local law number 1 of 2020 and ask the clerk to read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a proposed local law number 1 for the year 2020 entitled A Local Law Fixing the Salaries of Certain County Officers and Employees of Warren County. Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on November 15, 2019, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors on December 20, 2019 at 10 a.m. in the Supervisors' Rooms at the Warren County Municipal Center, 1340 State Route 9, Queensbury, New York, at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law for the year 2020 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the board regarding this local law? There being no one, I will close the public hearing. Report by the chairman. On November 18th, I attended the Public Works, Health and Human Services meeting. November 21, I delivered my third and final State of the County at the Park Theater in Glens Falls. I was joined in that presentation by our budget officer, Mr. Thomas, and our county administrator, Ryan Moore. It was a full house, and it's a great event. If you ever get a chance in the future of attending the event, I would recommend it. Just a few items that were delivered there that I think I would mention now is one of the items is our county tax rate at 3.987 per thousand, which is one of the lower tax rates per thousand in the state of New York, and it's also unchanged from 2019. So that's an interesting item. Our bond ratings is at AA stable, and we have some hopes that perhaps this coming year we might be able to go to AA plus. And just as an aside, we recently acted at the request of Treasurer Swan on converting taxable bonds that we had to tax exempt bonds. And we would expect that over the next 15 years, our estimates are perhaps some $3 million in savings on those bonds. Is that about right, Mike?
Yes.
And I certainly would like to thank the treasurer for his guidance in that regard. Our total indebtedness right now is around $40.7 million of a constitutional limit of somewhere around 160 million, or 25% of our constitutional limit, and that's down from 27% a year ago. Our sales tax revenue continues to rise, and it's presently at or about 2.9%. Is that about right? 2.9%, and a plus 2.9%, and that's, of course, that's always good news. And also, our total equalized full value assessment is up $158 million from a year ago. And of course, an expanding and improved tax base is always a good thing. And at present, we are at approximately $11.4 billion of assessed value here in the county. Just some interesting facts that I thought you might be interested in as part of a much broader presentation on the county budget and county financing. On December 5th, I attended Senator Little's press conference announcing her retirement. I'm sure all of you join me in thanking Betty for her many, many years of service, both at the local level and at the state level. Later that day, I attended the Personnel and Higher Education and Finance meeting. And then on December 12th, I attended the Warren County year-end meeting of the highway superintendents. It's a luncheon. If you've never attended the Warren County highway superintendents meetings, they move it around the county. I would strongly recommend it. They are just a terrific group of people doing some very interesting things in salt reduction and in equipment modernization. And if you get a chance, try to make it in your schedule to attend their luncheon. I know they would be thrilled to have any of you there. On December 16th, I attended the Warren County Soil and Water year-end meeting. It was a wonderful affair. They did a really in-depth recap of all of the different projects that they worked on for this year. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that they did honor and give a present to their outgoing president of 10 years, Mr. Frank Thomas, who has also served on that board for 16 years, Frank? For 16 years. So, Frank, congratulations and thank you for your service as president of Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District. I just should mention a couple of other things. You may have noticed these posters along the wall here. All of them are going to the town of Bolton. No. Sorry. Each town is entitled to take its poster back with you to your town hall, and we would hope that you would hang your poster with prominence at your town hall. And that has been provided by our Warren County Planning Department, and we thank them for the early Christmas present. And very important, to the town supervisors, your tax rolls are available in the clerk of your office, in Amanda's office, and make sure, because your town clerk's going to be asking, that you bring them with you when you head back to your town, because they're going to be in need of those rolls. And now, without objection, I would like to invite Commissioner Hajos. Are you here in the audience somewhere? There he is, over in the corner. If you could come to the podium. Kevin has some news, some very good news that he'd like to share with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As most of you have probably already received from Amy Drexel this morning, that FEMA the president did sign the declaration, so we will be getting 75% reimbursement for the storm damage. As far as the individual assistance to homeowners, that's still pending review, but it was declared, and we will get 75%.
That's great news. Thank you, Kevin. That's a very, very great Christmas present right there for many of us that had significant damage during that Halloween storm, Andrea.
Very good news.
You know, and others, Matt, and the other towns as well. That's just great news before Christmas. And that concludes my report. I just would like to say at this time that to wish each and every one of you and your families a very happy holiday season and a wonderful new year. Thank you. And that concludes my report. Report of committee chairs. Mr. Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism met on November 19th. There's only one resolution, 589, make payment to the Smith Travel Report. Everybody has a copy of the new travel guide on their desk. Please, I'd like you to go through it, and if you need more, please go to tourism. They got plenty. It's been a pretty good year for tourism industry. 2019 trend from Smith Travel, excess of 1 million rooms sold out in 2019 so far. Also for 2019, we've been monitoring the rentals, Airbnbs, and we're starting to keep track of what's going on until we get it taken care of through the county. Occupancy tax. This department, this county, I shouldn't say department, the county has occupancy taxes up $311,194 over last year, which was our record year. That is an increase of 8%. So that's a lot of extra money that goes in op tax for distribution. Sales tax revenue was administrated, with the, I'm going crazy over here. Mentioned, I have it down here as 2.4. You must have a newer one. It was 1,022,212, up from last year. We're just looking forward to another healthy year for 2020. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor Merlino. Supervisor Stroud.
No committee report, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wild.
No report, thank you.
Supervisor Beatty.
Yes, thank you. Facilities met on November 18th. There's a 537 to 541 in your packets concerning, we'll be putting in a new snowmobile. See, I'm already into the winter season already. Can't get enough of that snowmobiling. A snow removal building that will house our big equipment. Also, we met on December 5th, and that is a resolution authorizing us to go forward with the low bid for construction of the OEM building that will be placed on the campus. That was a real win for the county. I know Mr. LaFleur has been looking for some type of building to house his equipment for years. I think it's 7 or 8 years now. I'm not sure quite the exact amount of years. And we were able to sell the building down the Perkins to Perkins for $450,000, and the new building, which will be construction on our campus, will come in under $400,000. So that's a net gain for the county. And I want to thank Mr. Hajos and all those involved Mr. LaFleur, for his tenacity and wanting a building for 8 years. The guy doesn't give up, and for that he gets a gold star. So that will be Resolution 592. And that will conclude my report.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Supervisor McGowan,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No committee report.
Supervisor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance met on December 5th. Out of that meeting are resolutions for your consideration, and those are 521, which was revised, 522, 598 through 613, and 626 and 27, which were added on. Just highlighting some of them, 600 through 606 are all capital projects. 609 pertains to a proposal authorizing Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. They will provide property and casualty insurance broker services. They were the lowest bidder, and our self-insurance administrator, Amy Clute, who's done yeoman's work on this, recommended them. So hopefully this contract will be awarded to them. 613, which is near and dear to Supervisor Hogan and Dr. Seeley for their hard work, and this is increasing the state support for Cornell Cooperative Extension. The funding has not been increased in 18 years, so hopefully we can get somewhere. All the other resolutions were basic housekeeping items, but Treasurer Swan would like to come to the podium, please.
Absolutely, without objection. Morning, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. First, a couple of things I'd like to say. One, since I'm assuming that this is your last meeting, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say what a pleasure it's been, most of the time, working with you over the last few years. And thank you for your service in that position. It's well done. Thank you. And for the other supervisors who won't be returning, I also wish to say thank you for your service. And in this day and age, that's saying something to want to put yourself out there to do this job. Thank you. Now, let's get on to some business. I wasn't at the last Finance Committee meeting when my office was requesting the $1.8 million bond for the storm damage, and I understand there were some questions about it. And one of the reasons that I am requesting this is because of the other bond refinancing that we're doing. Right now, we're just a tick below what Standard & Poor's is requesting that, or is saying that we should have for an unencumbered fund balance. And I don't want to take that additional 1.8 million out of there. I would rather borrow it right now. It'll look a little bit better on the total scheme of things for us to get that refinancing done on the Human Services building. So that's my thought process behind that. And as far as the refinancing of the Human Services building, I sent out last week the underwriter's tab sheet. If anybody has any questions about that, I can answer them now. Basically, what we're doing is the underwriter is the person who actually sells the bonds and pays off the old bonds. They're telling us that they can get us a rate of 1.74% and save us about $3.7 million over the next 15 years. It will cost us a little bit more for them than it does the other companies that were involved, but as far as I'm concerned, that the savings far outweigh that additional cost. And those are not direct costs to the county. It's just like if you refinance your home, all of that stuff is rolled into the actual refinancing itself. We do have a schedule set, and hopefully, if everything goes well, we should be going out to sale on the bonds the first week of February.
Very good.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what would be the net savings by rebounding?
3.7 million.
3.7, that's after the additional cost of the underwriter.
Yes.
Wow.
That's after all the costs of everything, because there's a lot of other things in there. There's publication fees. We have to pay for bond counsel. We have to pay for insurance. There's a lot of things that get rolled in there. After everything is taken care of, we're going to save, the projection savings is 3.7 million.
That's excellent, Mike, thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and Happy New Year, everybody.
You too.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Well, I would like to say at this time that we are finished with you, Mr. Sokol. But however, being that this is maybe your last meeting, I was wondering if perhaps Mr. Garrity, former Chairman Garrity, and I, and you, if you could come forward to the floor. We have a few things that we would like to do at this moment.
This is not a rope, is it?
It says, best wishes and sincere appreciation, Matthew D. Sokol, for the 13 years of dedicated service to the residents of Warren County Board of Supervisors, 2007 to 2019. And what I was gonna say, I will roast him a little bit, I preceded him in the meeting room, our committee meeting rooms for the last few years, and I'm the one that saved him, because we would have a competition who could complete their meetings quickest. So I saved Matt, but I want to wish him all the luck with his endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was the person that I guess you blame for making you deputy chairman of the board, and I just have to say that the 3 years, Matt, that you have been a great partner, an ally in the operation of county government. I could not have made a better choice. I know that your colleagues agree with that assessment. That, and for all that hard work and whatever you get a thought.
We have to do this for 13 minutes.
Numbers 2007 to 2019, my goodness. I only have a half an hour set aside for this speech, so just hang on. What an honor it's been to be an at-large supervisor representing Queensbury at the county level. It's been quite a ride, and I want to give a lot of thanks out there to a lot of people, so please give me some time. First and foremost, my family, not just my immediate, but the extended. They have been extremely supportive, and I couldn't have done it without them. Then, moving on, we have our supporters who have voted me in for 13 years, and I greatly appreciate that. It's been contentious sometimes and difficult, but in the end, we're here to do the right thing for the county. I've had many past supervisors and administrators and attorneys and all that stuff, and they've all helped me along the way. So, and that also brings me to you guys who have done the same, and it's been rewarding. I just appreciate everything that has been done for me over this ride. Our current administrator, Ryan, good news for you. I have a full head of hair when I started. But you're doing great. We see some wonderful things, and I can see it only getting better. Mary, great job. You're growing into some tough shoes that need to be filled, and honestly, you're doing great work. So thanks to you and your team. Amanda, Jonesy, tough woman to follow, and you and your team have done an excellent job. So keep up the good work. And Christy and Sam, my goodness, they can probably scratch $3,000 off of their candy budget for all of you. Thank you for them for putting up with all my antics. And then all the department heads who I've dealt with and all the hard work that they do when we constantly ask for more than what we can potentially get out of them. They're just a tough group, and I want to thank them. As of the last few years, I've had the pleasure of working side by side with Mike Swan and Tammy and Rob. And my God, you guys have done an excellent job. And we are in a position right now at the county that I can only see us getting stronger. As the chairman mentioned, our sales tax is up, and we're just doing great work up here. So it's unbelievable coming from the private sector, dealing with government, and with the understanding that you only have 15% of the budget to deal with. It's just unbelievable that we're in the position that we are in right now. So, with that being said, thank you so much for this. I greatly appreciate it, and I wish you.
That was great. Supervisor Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The Budget Committee met on November 25th. In your packet is resolutions 523 and 536. And I'll quickly run through them here. There's $250,000 for combating aquatic invasives. About $13,000 for the Lake Champlain Lake Shore Treatment Planning Board. $3,000 for the Adirondack Horticulture Association. $7,500 for the Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board. $99,000 for the City of Glens Falls. Capital improvements and operation and maintenance of the rec programs. $469,000 for Cornell Cooperative Extension, and an additional $25,000 for the Sky Farm Membership Program. $300,000 for Economic Development Corporation. There's an agreement with Lakes Locks for $2,000. The Southern Adirondack Library System is $55,000. The Warren County Historical Associates First Society, that's $3,500. The Warren County LDC for $50,000. And lastly, the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District for approximately $346,000. These are all the contracts and agreements that are within the 2020 budget. The last couple of years, we've put them in front of the committee to review them, so people can have a look at them. Now, moved through, I think it was past this budget committee meeting that I chaired. One note that resolution 524, 521, I believe was the same thing.
No, there's a revised one there. It's 521 was changed to the Lake Park.
I'd also like to make note that the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District had 4 awards that I saw yesterday from the Regional Economic Development Council for a total of $140,000. Green infrastructure facility or feasibility study in Queensbury. Culvert replacements in Hague and Queensbury, and culvert repairs in 3 towns, Hague, Stone Creek, and Morrisville. They've also received, to date, 3 grants for 2020 from the Lake Champlain Basin Program. And lastly, I would like to mention that at our annual meeting on the 16th, each year the district directors and staff put together a list of people that we'd like to honor as Conservation City Year. And this year, the directors chose Steve Lovren, who was the Director of Parks and Recreation in Queensbury.
Thank you. Supervisor Hyde.
No report.
Supervisor Garrity.
Yes, personnel, we have 8 resolutions of note. 596, we're going to approve Liza Oxendorf as the new Administrator of Employment and Training. Liza, do you want to just stand up? Thank you. I only did that because I think I pronounced her name correctly, so I've learned to pronounce it, so I got to get that in. Then we have 625 is enacting local law fixing the salaries of county officers and employees. 629 is authorizing terms of Correctional Supervisors Association contract. And of one note that's not part of my committee meeting, and I'd just like to say thanks to Matt, Bill Loeb, and to Cynthia for their dedication to the board for the last few years. And I kid with Matt, but we had a lot of fun in the day of our meetings. We're the only two that meet that day, so we had a lot of fun with our committees. Also, to Chairman Conover, this is his last meeting, maybe. He's keeping it short, which is good. And we've had spirited discussions throughout the last few years, but we always can be friends, and that's what I like about this place. We'll have spirit discussions, whether it be any side of the aisle, but we always can come back and be friends. We consider each other friends, and we do get over it, although sometimes we like to keep the discussions going. And it wouldn't surprise me if he wanted to take all those pictures to vote. I was thinking the same thing when he said that. I said, it wouldn't surprise me. But I just want to say, Ron, I appreciate it. I sat there. It's not an easy job, but we are in great shape. And one last thing, Resolution 578, long-awaited countryside sewer project agreement that we have. The project is almost complete. Believe it or not, that started in 2016. I'd like to say it was a labor of love, but it was a labor that created a lot of gray hairs for me, but it's finally going to happen. It'll improve Warrensburg's watershed. It also will improve countryside adult home and make it a better place to live and work. And DEC has agreed with us. We finally got approval from DEC this past week to start up the sewer line. So I want to thank Kevin Hajos, DPW, for that. So I ask that you all will approve 578 going forward. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Supervisor Lake. I've said in a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Criminal Justice Public Safety met on November 19th. Before you are 7 resolutions from 542 through 548. One's from assigned counsel, 2 are from probation, 4 are from sheriff. With assigned counsel, $45,000 to come out of an oils grant for Legal Aid Society for paralegal and case management support services. Probation has monitoring services for $18,150 a year, and Warren Hamilton County's Action Committee for Economic Opportunity Alternative Sentencing Program for $60,000. On the sheriff's office, 2 of them are for internet connectivity with First Light. One is for approving coverage for Six Flags, a contract with them, and then for medical, behavioral health, dental, etc., contract for the jail of $3,280,702 a year. So those are for you today. Thank you. And I also want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been new on this board. You've been up there for most of those years, Supervisor Garrity in the beginning, and it's been a pleasure having you up there. Thank you for your leadership on this. Also want to thank Cynthia and Matt and Bill serving with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No reports today.
Supervisor McDivitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also attended Betty Little's retirement at Glens Falls City Hall, and Betty is truly an example of probably the best outstanding constituent service in the state of New York. So she certainly will be missed. I also would like to thank Supervisor Sokol, Hyde, Loeb for your efforts, and you're going to be missed. And Mr. Chairman, thank you. You've done well, and we appreciate your positive spirit and enthusiasm for the job. Yesterday, the governor gave some money back to some of our local communities. If there's one underlying characteristic with many cities in the Northeast, is that we have stuff that's under the highway, crumbling infrastructure. So the city of Glens Falls got approximately $1 million. I see where the town of Chester got a $25,000 grant. Lake George got some help, and Nettle Meadows, our wonderful goat farm people, got some help from the Empire Development Corporation. So the governor's office, I think, is making an effort to re-energize, some of our communities. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Environmental Concerns and Real Property met on November 19th, and we have 2 resolutions in your packet. They are for energy benchmarking and an application to NYSERDA to do an energy audit for money to help with that, so I hope that you will support those 2 resolutions. And the septic working group did meet to talk about the septic inspection law. If you're interested in participating and getting some feedback into that, please let me know. Also, I'm going to steal a little thunder. The EV charging stations are installed out front, so if people want to use them, they're there. We ask that people who do not have EV vehicles do not park there. So there will be signs going out, and just ask for everyone's cooperation because that is a park and ride that a lot of people use. And without objection, I'd like to ask our real property director to just come up and give a quick update about some of our properties.
Sure.
Thank you.
Lexi, podium's yours.
Good morning, everybody. Claudia wanted me to give an update on our Chestertown property at 10 Pine Street. I met with DEC out at the property on December 4th, and they removed 2 underground storage tanks. They felt that we got pretty lucky with them. They were very old tanks. They were actually riveted tanks, which they don't even make anymore. I do have a couple of pictures with me as well of the tanks. One was a 500-gallon gas and another one was 1,000-gallon. They were both full of product or close to full. They removed about 1,200 gallons from both tanks. They chased the product lines and found the historical common dispenser island. They had National Vac in there doing a lot of the excavating work for them, and they excavated the impacted soils at the location down to about 3 feet below the grade until they got out of the contamination. They were pretty happy with the way things went. A former employee, they said, stopped and let them know that there was a possible other tank that was used for heating oil out back, but we had already had all the GPR done, so we didn't find anything, and they checked again and found nothing but an old septic tank, so they weren't concerned with that. So probably in about a month we should have the tank closure reports on that, and then after that then they would be able to close out the spill. So at that point then we would receive an invoice from them for our portion, which is only $2,500.
Good. Any questions for Lexi? Thank you, Lexi. Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor Bramer?
Yep. Thank you very much, Lexi. That's been one of our ones that's been sitting around for a long time, and we're very happy to have that closure report. And I did talk to a DEC official after that day, and he said that Lexi did a great job, was very easy to work with, and very knowledgeable, and wanted her to come work for DEC. And I said, no, thank you. So that was great. Thanks. Thank you. And we are moving forward with the Mullins property on Bay Road. We sent out an RFP to ask for bids for the demolition of the building, and I don't know exactly when when those are due, but it's soon, and we'll look January 16th.
I believe the bid opening is at 3 o'clock on the 16th of January. We do have a walkthrough on January 7th for any of the people that are bidding.
Great. So that one I know, Treasurer Swan, you've been dealing with that for like 20 years or something ridiculous. So we are moving forward with that. And now that we are doing that, we are getting some interest from the private sector to purchase the property, which in my mind would be great if we can get it back on the tax rolls, if that's a possibility. So we're doing that. And finally, I do want to thank my neighbor here for all of his work over the many years, and for your always interesting, creative and practical solutions and ideas, and for working hard for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Supervisor Loeb, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, very well. I'm not happy I'm not going to be here, but I'm not unhappy because I have exciting things coming down the line, working with the Red Cross and Disaster Services, which actually will put me in connection with our own disaster service departments here in the county. Support services met we had a brief meeting, and the few resolutions that came out of that meeting are in the packet, and they're self-explanatory. Under support services, there are 10 departments, and to echo Supervisor Sokol's comments, the people from those departments do a fantastic job. I'm proud to be associated and proud to say that the people that work for Warren County do a great job for the taxpayers and residents and citizens of Warren County. I started here in 2010, was here 4 years, took 4 years off to give Jim Brock 4 years, and came back for 2 more years. And Dan Bruno is coming on board. Now, normally, when you get to my late age, you say, "Oh, it's time to move on and let the young folks come on." Well, it's Dan Bruno is no spring chicken. Right. But his many years working in the engineering field, and almost as many years being the chairman of the Glens Falls City Planning Board, he's going to bring some great talent, some new ideas, and certainly fresh perspectives to the board. So I wish him luck, and I know he'll be a great. I'm not sure. I think he might be sitting here, not in this desk. We shift down when Supervisor Conover moves over to this desk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. It'll be actually, it's a lot of fun to be a member of this board.
I'll be nice.
That's true. Nobody will take anything off your plate. But I want to take this opportunity to observe, actually mention, acknowledge things that have been said here today, and something that the controller has pointed out as far as our budget and audit. And this is a non-political statement. When I started in 2010, anyone who was here then did not hear anything like what we heard today. Things are great. The money's flowing in. Boy, are we in great shape. I mean, Gene talked about it. The treasurer talked about it. Matt talked about it. The budget officer talked about it. It's unanticipated. I heard more than a half a dozen people say how healthy we are today. In the audit, I think it was the audit from the controller. Controller wants the municipalities and the state to have 2 months of fund balance. I think he's really upset with the fact that the state does not have, they're only about halfway there. We, on the other hand, are actually very healthy, as the budget officer pointed out. We have at the beginning of the year, we'll have between $21 and $22 million. 2 months would put us about close to $24 million. Now, in good times, that's, to me, is a little excessive, $24 million with our budget. However, despite what everybody said here, today are good times. That's today, Friday, December 20th. But we are, and I think this was a concern of the controller, that we are at the end. In fact, we pushed the envelope on this economic expansion. And while we are hugely healthy and fortunate in this county, and this is one of the things that you say, well, I want to stay on because I want to help protect the county. You folks will be in charge of that now. This expansion will not last unless you're rolling the dice and you know it's always going to come up, the number you want it to come up. This expansion is not going to continue. Maybe another year, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. But at some point, it's going to come crashing down. The controller advises us that we should be prepared. Our workforce is healthy, it's very efficient, and it does a great job. I think we want to be able to maintain that service to the county when the recession starts, and it will. I mean, we've already pushed the envelope. It's amazing that this expansion has lasted so long. So I end with this, that I hope you folks look at that fund balance, keep it strong, make it stronger, maintain all the services that you've been doing, but don't take advantage of the fact that we have a lot of money and we can spend that. It's a great temptation, but we want to be ready so that when a recession hits, we'll be able to weather that, and our county's residents won't suffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your service. I have no committee report
although I would like to reiterate the respect that I have for the 3 outgoing supervisors as well as the 3 incoming supervisors, and also to wish everyone a blessed holiday season.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health, Human, and Social Services met on November the 18th. As a result of that meeting, we have 14 resolutions, 554 through 557. 567, I'm sorry. 3 were from Countryside, 1 was from Social Services, 4 from Community Services, 3 from Office of the Aging, and 3 from Public Health. I'm not going to read those over. I think you've all had a chance to look those over, but we would appreciate your support. One thing I like to do is echo Bill's comment about the department heads. I have really enjoyed working with the department heads that I've had, and I hope that we all realize just what a wonderful job they do and how fortunate we are that they work here for us at Warren County. So thank you. Have a nice Christmas.
Thank you, Edna. Supervisor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. DPW did meet on November 18th, and we have 15 resolutions. This is the first time in a year that we've had more than 1 or 2. So this is really phenomenal. So the highlight of those resolutions is, as Supervisor Garrity had highlighted, 578. There's your approval of that resolution. That is the out-of-district sanitary sewer district. And that's very important. It's a good project, and I'm glad to see this finally at a close. And then I'm going to bring your attention to 585, which is the authorizing the commencement of our abandonment proceedings with the Surface Transportation Board for the county-owned railroad tracks. And without any objection, I'd like to ask Mr. Moore if he would like to elaborate on that process,
Sure.
so we have that.
Sure. Without objection, absolutely.
Resolution 585 is one of those that's been amended, so it's in that packet. The reason it's amended is because the first draft of the resolution was in the mailing, and I didn't meet my deadline for the revisions, so that's why you're looking at an amendment on that one. The amended resolution clarifies a number of points regarding what abandonment is and what it is not. Abandonment is a proceeding that's governed by the Surface Transportation Board, and it's aimed at determining whether the federal government should abandon its freight jurisdiction over this corridor. Abandonment does not mean that we're physically abandoning our infrastructure, and it does not mean we're going to rush out and rip up all the rails. Abandonment means that there will first be a federally mandated financial assistance process to determine whether there is viable freight usage for the line, and if there is not, the abandonment process is a tool to help Warren County and our partners move towards the most viable non-freight use of this corridor. The rail line may or may not actually end up abandoned by the end of this process. One possible outcome could be rail banking the corridor for recreational use, and this would leave the federal freight jurisdiction intact for the future if a need for freight does develop in the future. Another outcome could be passenger rail, if a viable operation for passenger services. And I want you all to understand that passenger rail can still operate on a federally abandoned rail line. Another outcome could be recreation, including hiking, biking, snowmobiles, rail bikes, and other uses. And the long and short of this is initiating abandonment does not decide the fate of this corridor. It simply puts us on a path to make that decision with all of the interested parties involved when the time comes. And this is in contrast to the status quo, which has been Warren County taxpayers continuing to subsidize this corridor indefinitely with no clear direction established. And in my opinion, that status quo is not acceptable.
Very good. Succinct, to the point.
Thank you. And I want to also echo the sentiments that have been expressed by my colleagues towards the outgoing supervisors, and also for your service stepping up as chairman, Mr. Conover. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you, and also Bill Loeb, who, when I became supervisor, was leaving for the first time, and so I didn't get the privilege to serve with him before, but it certainly has been an honor to work with you. And Matt, it's been a pleasure working with you. I'm going to miss those green But it's something I look forward to all the time, and it's certainly been a pleasure working with you also, Cynthia. And I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and good health for you and your families.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Sokol referenced Resolution 613 to encourage an increase in state funding to support the cooperative extensions across our state. I know I've said this before, the work they do is so important. We need to show them our support. This funding has not been increased in many, many years, and it is time. A lot of the money goes to sustain programs and staff in each county. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but many of the programs that the CCE does are stuff that's mandated for the county. They take care of it for us, and we're grateful, and we need to show our gratitude. So please support 613. In addition, I'm asking for your support for 585. Is it the abandonment? Just please do support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, one more thing. Sorry.
By all means.
We want to thank Kevin Hajos, the DPW, and Warren Spurg for your help with connecting the utilities and the new training center.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And now, without further ado, Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you, lame duck chairman. The Occupancy Tax Committee met on November 19th. We had 3 presentations there. We had one from Mayor Blaze going through the village's stance and their argument in support of getting the mock tax for their sewage treatment plant. We also had a report from Jeff Mead bringing us up to date on coal insuring. They're doing a great job. They continue to grow their agenda, which is a good thing. It's a really important asset for the area. And lastly, Kristen Hannafin, special events and convention salesperson for the Lake George Chamber and CVB, gave her quarterly report. They've had a very, very busy schedule. I don't know how she gets all the things done that she does, but she does a great job. And we have no resolutions out of that meeting. Thank you.
Very good. Report of the county administrator.
Good morning. We do have a designee for December Employee of the Month. It's Jennifer Ramsey from the Office of Emergency Services. If you know Jennifer, you know she's the one that keeps the trains running down in the office. Brian LaFleur, the director, is out of the county today on training. He really wanted to be present when she's given the award, so we'll defer the presentation until next month when he can be here. We have one employee anniversary this month, and it's a big one. Wayne Lamoth, our plant planning director, has an incredible 35 years with the county. And I don't know where all of you were 35 years ago. I was getting ready for pre-K. But it puts into perspective, thinking back that far, how much Wayne has given and continues to give to our county. So I'd like to thank Wayne for his service. Thanks as well to Supervisor Sokol, Supervisor Hyde, and Supervisor Loeb. We'll miss you all. You've been very good to me, but more importantly, you've all been supportive of the department heads and the county employees, which is very much appreciated.
When Wayne Lamont started, I was supervisor.
Is that right? I think I've seen that picture.
Yeah, you probably didn't recognize me.
Good luck to the 3 supervisors. I'd also like to mention a 4th servant to this county whose tenure is ending on December 31st, and that's Sheriff York. The sheriff and I have worked together every day, including weekends. We've shared a lot of laughs, and I want to thank him for his long career of law enforcement and all the accomplishments he's had in that career. Today also, as folks have mentioned, is the last board meeting that Chairman Conover will preside over, and I do want to thank Ron for his hard work and his support. We all have our own unique strengths. And sitting here today, I can honestly say that of all the local officials I've ever worked with, Ron's strength is his vision. He has an uncommon vision and an uncommon intellect when it comes to long-term planning. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with him as a town supervisor. Congratulations, Ron, on your chairmanship. There are 111 resolutions today because the committee schedule doesn't allow for a lot to come before the board until the February meeting. So this time of year is always a rush to get things done. That's why we have more than usual this month in terms of amendments and late starters. There are 8 resolutions need amending, and I want to highlight the more substantive amendments. The first I already did, that's 585 on abandonment. Resolution 593 was amended just now by the Personnel Committee to make technical corrections, including an adjustment to the Undersheriff's 2020 salary. We're reducing that salary from $107,941 to $35,000. And this is being done at the request of the sheriff-elect and his designee as undersheriff. And also, the committee approved today a temporary clerical position for the county attorney in order to cover for an employee who is out on medical leave. And that item is budget neutral. There are 6 late starter resolutions for today. This morning, personnel moved 2 of those. Number 630 approves the final payroll disbursement for the Veterans Peer-to-Peer Coordinator who has resigned effective today. You should all have the attachment detailing that payout. It's $1,042.50 in total. $41.70 will be charged to the peer-to-peer state grant, and the remainder will be charged to the county because it's not program related. If there are any questions about the details of that, we hashed it out in executive session and personnel this morning, and I'd be happy to answer those questions in this meeting as well when the discussion of resolutions comes forward. Resolution 629 is to approve a new collective bargaining agreement with the 2 correction lieutenants. Again, this was approved this morning in personnel. This agreement is similar to the agreement reached with their road patrol counterparts back in October. And I'd like to thank Lieutenants Dan Clifford and Wayne Farmer for working this one out with me. They're good men. They do a good job for us, and I appreciate their commitment to the county. Resolution 626, which was mentioned by Supervisor Sokol, it was approved by Finance, but it was not ready in time for the mailing, and it authorizes payment for the county's 2020 property and casualty insurance program. As you know, we did a full RFP this year for the first time in almost 20 years, and it did result in significant savings. Our new broker is Arthur J. Gallagher, and their primary carrier is Zurich, and they'll be saving us between $110,000 and $120,000 compared to what we're paying this year. And for a program of our size, that's significant. It amounts to about 12% off the bill for next year. The RFP was a lot of work. Obviously, it was well worth it. I'd also like to thank Amy Clute and our consultant, Frank Kalo, from One Group for all the work that they did with me on that. Resolution 627 was also approved by Finance, but was not ready in time for the mailing. It authorizes the issuance of up to $1.8 million in serial bonds to pay for storm-related repairs to county roads. As discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, the actual cost of these repairs may not ultimately be $1.8 million, and this resolution does not mean the treasurer is going to go out right away and borrow all of this money. This simply gives him the umbrella authority to do what ultimately needs to be done. And as you know from Superintendent Hajos, we will get the 75. That is done on a reimbursement basis, so we have to put out the cash in the first instance. That's why we have this bonding resolution. Resolution 628 awards a 2020 solid waste and recycling disposal agreement to the town of Lake Luzerne, and it awards it to Waste Management. This is the result of a competitive bid, and the results were not ready in time for the Public Works meeting. And there's also a floor resolution that will amend the 2018 resolution that involves a litigated matter, and the county attorney will speak to that in her report. I think I've gone enough already. I'll give you the Reader's Digest of my highlights of my activities since the last board meeting. As the chairman mentioned, we did the State of the County presentation November 21st at the Park Theater. We had CSEA negotiations on November 25th and on December 4th. I had remarks at the EDC holiday gathering also on December 4th. I toured manufacturing facilities in Glens Falls and Fort Edward on the 9th. The Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors meeting I attended this past Monday. And I also attended a community forum regarding the railroad in Johnsburg on Tuesday evening. And thanks to Supervisor Hogan for hosting that forum. I think it went very well. All of these activities, in fact, went well. We were a little disappointed, however, with CSEA. We had 2 negotiating sessions. We made the quickest progress on any deal I've ever worked on in my life. We were very encouraged by that. But we hit a brick wall in the 3rd session about the well, if you want details on the issues, I can give them to you outside of the public session. And the CSEA decided to declare impasse at that moment. So I'm a little sad because I think the employees would have done better with what management was willing to offer than what they'll ultimately get out of mediation, but we'll see how that plays out. And in closing, I just want to say that with what's going on in Washington this week, I'm very proud of this county because that's just not the way we operate here. We're not Republicans versus Democrats on this board. We're public servants and we want what's best for our people. And sometimes we disagree, but we do it respectfully and with the goal of getting things done. I think we should be proud of that and reflect on that in the holiday season. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you. Report of the county attorney.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As Ryan mentioned, we have floor resolution number 1, which is amending resolution number 94 of 2018, which authorized just compensation for land acquisition related to the Palisades Road project. And if anyone wants to know what town this is, Supervisor Kirby, it's Horicon. When this project first began, the owners of the land surrounding the road were unclear. In the 2 years since commencing this project, the engineering department and DPW, as well as outside consultants, have worked very hard in identifying all the parties who may have an ownership interest. Because of that hard work, we now need to amend the resolution, which allocated the just compensation among those owners. This amendment is what is before you as floor resolution 1. And it both adds new owners to the tax parcel and allocates their share of the just compensation differently than that which was allocated in 2018. I also want to take a moment to thank those board members who are leaving us in the new year. We appreciate all your hard work for the county and your unending support for all the employees here. It was a pleasure working with all of you, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. I also want to thank the chairman for his excellent leadership over the past 3 years. He is leaving big shoes to fill in terms of his service and his support for the employees as well. And finally, I just want to wish everyone a safe and happy holidays.
Thank you. Reading of communications.
We've received the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission base flow deviation reports, Articles 402 and 405. Warren County Probation Department's September and October 2019 reports of family workloads, Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corporation financial reports dated August 31, 2019 and September 30, 2019, letter from the Whitehall Central School District asking the Warren County Board of Supervisors to consider donating the railroad caboose currently located at the Thurman Station to the Whitehall Central School District. Letter from Sheriff Bud York officially resigning from the Warren County Traffic Safety Board effective December 31st, 2019. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. October payment in the amount of $2,821. Essex County Board of Supervisors Resolution number 314 of 2019, placing all entities with property or ownership interest in the Sanford Lake branch of the North Creek Railroad or Tawas line on notice of unpaid real property taxes due to the County of Essex. The Warren Washington County IDA Agency 2020 budget, and Town of Stony Creek Resolution number 126 of 2019, opposing New York Assembly Act 8123, which seeks to restrict subdivisions of land into large residential lots for rural sprawl.
Very good. Reading of resolutions.
Proposed resolution numbers 521 through 625 were distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors and posted to the Warren County website last week. Resolution numbers 521, 524, 578, 585, 593, 614, 615, and 622 were all amended after mailing. The amended resolutions were emailed to the board yesterday and posted to the county website. Copies are in your folders. A motion is needed to approve the amendments to all of those resolutions.
Motion to approve amendments, Mr. Sokol. Mr. McGowan on the second. Discussion. Ready for the question. All those in favor of the amendments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution numbers 626 through 630 were produced after mailing. They were distributed to the board yesterday and posted to the county website as well. Copies of those are in your folder, and a motion is needed to bring resolution 626 through 630 to the floor.
Motion on 626 through 630 to bring it to the floor. Mr. McGowan on the motion. Second. Mr. Dickinson on the second. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of bringing these resolutions to the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And there is the floor resolution that Mary outlined. A motion is needed to bring that to the floor as well.
Motion on the floor, Mr. Wild on the motion, Mr. Simpson on the second. Discussion? There being none? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Floor resolution number 1 is now resolution number 631 and will be voted on with the rest of the resolutions.
Floor resolution number 631. Now I'll turn to the audience. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the board regarding any resolutions presently before the Board of Supervisors? And now actually supervisors themselves, requests for roll call. Mr. Loeb.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two requests. First one is 585 regarding the abandonment of the railroad. And the reason is, this is a full board vote on this issue, which is actually just the beginning. We've been dealing with the railroad for a long time, but this is the beginning of another phase. There's going to be a lot more meetings, a lot of discussion, and a lot more votes, and I think it's a good time to start to have everybody's name saying where they stand at this moment. Things are going to change over the years, but I think we should have that nailed down.
Sure. Roll call on 585. Any other roll call
Yes,
requests?
one more. 592, that's for the Emergency Services Building. Non-controversial, but I just, in honor of Brian LaFleur, excuse me, sorry. As Frank said a few months ago, this is way overdue. And I think everybody should be able to say, yes, we want it.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Bill. Any other requests for roll call? Supervisor Stroud.
622, please.
Uh, 622?
Yes, please.
I understand. Any other requests for roll call? Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I'm gonna request a roll call on 584, declaring the loose and the books. I drive by that every time I'm over here, go to lunch. There was quite a lot of work put into that, where it sets now. Iowa Pacific, took some effort to get it down there. No, it hasn't been used, but I think it has potential, whether it's a tourist train or whether it's a trail. Has potential as possibly a food element.
Very good. Any other requests for roll call? Mr. Sokol.
Mr. Chairman, will 631 be a roll call, or is that just added in with the other, the floor resolution that we just?
Does that need to be a roll call for the floor resolution?
No, it's not required. There being no other requests for roll call, I'll open up discussion on resolutions presently before us. Mr. Dickinson.
I have a question on the caboose.
Go right ahead.
So we're making a surplus, what's the point of that? What are we doing with it? 621.
584.
Declaring it surplus would be the first step in selling it.
Thank you. Mr. Merlino.
Yeah, I had the same question. I think it should be given an option, as maybe one of the towns along the way might want it before we decide to give it away.
Good thought. Good thought.
Took hamburger when I retired. Yeah,
A little diner, maybe?
it should stay in the county.
If I might make a recommendation, is since there's some interest in this, is that I don't think this is anything of time of the essence on this. Are there people that would?
Motion to table.
We have a motion to table for Mr. Simpson. Angie, are you seconding that? Second on a motion to table and send it back to committee? Motion to table, go back to committee for further discussion. I think that's a wise thing to do at this stage. Time is not of the essence. All those in favor of the tabling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 584 is tabled. Discussion on other resolutions. Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Very briefly, it's related to 606, and this is the transfer of funds from the sale of the recycling building to the OES building. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize our staff that supported me when I was somehow roped in the middle of trying to get this thing closed. And that's Kevin Hedros, Frank Morehouse, Mary Kinsane, and Ryan Moore. They all did an outstanding job, very supportive of me. And actually, Mr. Perkins, when he closed, and he had issues with some of the trash that was left on the facility, we resolved it. He sent me a voicemail that was in great appreciation for the whole team, and I just wanted to make sure we recognize them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. Discussion on other resolutions. Supervisor Bramer.
I am concerned and about 631, not knowing where this came from, not having seen a map or anything. I know I'm kind of nerdy about that sort of thing, but maybe Superintendent Hedros could give us a little bit more detail
Sure.
on what's happening.
Without objection, Kevin, can you give us some specifics on the what's now resolution 631?
I can. I think Mary should probably get more. As she said, the property owners on this project have changed in the years. I think on one particular property, we probably have 7 or 8 property owners. But I don't think in the original just compensation, they were all listed on there. Now we're just listing them as part of the just compensation to make sure that they do get compensated for their portion of the project. This is our Brant Lake Inlet Bridge project. It's a federal aid project. It's the 80-15-5, so we're reimbursed basically 95% from the state and the feds. But this allows us to pay them so we can close out the final design documents and move forward with construction.
Continue.
So these tax map numbers,
Yep.
they were already identified as basically their land is being taken for the project.
That's correct.
And this isn't anything new, it's just
No.
making sure that we have all of their names identified correctly and giving them the proper dollar amounts.
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Discussion on other resolutions. Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Hogan had called a public meeting up in Johnsburg last Tuesday. County Administrator Moore was there, Supervisor Wild, Supervisor Simpson, and it was a very good forum. I want to thank Supervisor Hogan for opening up the discussion to the public and to the people that are involved in that will be immediately affected by anything that happens with the railroad. And it seems to be that the public felt comforted by explanation of what the abandonment was about. County Administrator Moore did a good job on explaining that process. Questions were taken. So thank you, Supervisor.
Sure. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you so much. I'm very pleased as well that Supervisor Hogan put together that meeting for the residents there, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there. I had another commitment. But as everyone knows, I've been advocating for a conversion to a rail trail. I think it will benefit our county residents as far as quality of life. And I also think that it's going to bring some outdoor recreation tourism industry. There's a lot of opportunity here, potential for certain trailside businesses like bed and breakfast, food and beverages, ice cream shops, repair shops, retail for outdoor gear. It's a giant industry, and we all know that tourism is one of our biggest or the biggest economic drivers here besides the hospital, basically. So this is something that I think we can really get behind, and I appreciate that Administrator Moore put that language in that says we do not need to rip up the tracks right away. I do not think we should do that because there are opportunities for us to do the rail biking. They obviously need the rails. Maybe we will have some sort of passenger train tourism operation happening. So there's a lot there. I think that we need to be careful about what we're doing and that we should invest in some planning around what the best uses are and what segments of the corridor we can do what with. And we haven't spent the time to do that, but this is a great first step towards our long-term planning for the economic potential that's there in the corridor and for our small towns along the line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other hands? Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, I would just like to add on to that, and then reading in the papers, you know, as Supervisor Peter McDermott does a lot of times, but I did read the article about the museum and the amount of visitors that have come to the museum, really mainly from the car rails there, or the bike rail. It was just very interesting, and I also would like to comment on Mr. Moore and really explaining the abandonment procedure in a very nice way and an understanding, because we're not actually walking away. It just opens up the options that we have. I also would like to take this time to thank the outgoing supervisors for their service and enjoyed working with you all, and our chairman for the last 3 years of doing a great job and helping us become as strong as we are too, stronger in the last 3 years, and that everybody enjoy the holidays.
Any discussion on other resolutions? Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I know Superintendent Hajos is working on this. I'm just gonna put another plug in, because we have several resolutions here about our solid waste management, medical waste, recycling disposal, contracts for the towns, and electronics recycling, other municipal paper recycling. We have a lot of stuff that we need to think about with our solid waste management and to try to reduce our waste, get our residents educated about what to do with all of this waste. And we have a solid waste management plan for the county that really needs to be updated. I know the consultants are working on that, but I think that we need to be a little bit more creative about reducing the waste that we're sending to the incinerator.
Very good. Any further discussion on resolutions? There being none, I'll close discussion on resolutions. Matt, if you could take the chair for a moment, I need to make this call.
Sure.
I knew you'd get up there, Matt.
About time.
That's right. Last meeting, 3 years. Take it over, big guy.
There you go.
Big gavel, buddy.
Oh, meeting adjourned?
All right, Amanda, what the hell are we doing now? Okay, we're going to vote on resolutions. Amanda, make the roll.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. In terms of procedural, we have many roll call votes here, 20, I think I counted, maybe there's more. 20 times 20
Nope.
members is, how many times does our
400.
Amanda have to
400.
go through and list this? Can we group these together by any chance and then pull some that might be, someone may have to rescind or do whatever while the real chairman's out? Maybe we can make, shorten the meeting?
Well, the cat's away.
Thanks for putting that one on me.
Yeah.
Can we do this, man?
You can do it.
Oh, we can. So we can do it, but the lame duck chairman doesn't like to do that.
He's not here.
You are
not
the
here.
chairman.
So I don't mind grouping them
Just the finance.
by departments. We can group them by department.
Yeah, finance.
Did you have a question, Supervisor Dickinson?
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest 599 through 607 are all finance.
Yeah, we'll group them. Is that okay with the
Could
Supervisor
you
Barron?
just be very clear about which numbers through which number we're gonna vote on at a time, please? Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna let Amanda handle this.
Okay, so I guess first we'll start with 521 and 522. Is anyone opposed to grouping those two together in roll call?
No.
Okay, so right now we're voting on the 521, making supplemental appropriations, and 522, amending the Warren County budget for 2019. Mr. Merlino?
Aye. Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
Okay, the next one up is 585. This is authorizing commencement of the abandonment proceedings. We should do this one on its own.
Yeah.
Let's get to that sheet. Okay. Okay. Mr. Merlino?
Just a quick comment, because I'm going to say yes, but I want to thank Brian for discussing this with me and making me understand how it works, and I appreciate it, so I will vote yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
Okay, on to 592. This one's authorizing agreement with Bishop Beaudry Construction for the Office of Emergency Services Building. Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
593, this is the personnel resolution amending the table of organization and salary and compensation plan. Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Okay, 598 through 607 are all of the finance resolutions that you wanted to group. Everyone okay with those?
Yeah.
612.
We do.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
Chairman Conover?
Yeah.
7. Okay, on to 612. That's authorizing conveyances of land offered at online public auction. Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 622, authorizing payments to SUNY Adirondack. Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Approve.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 625, enacting local law number 1 of 2020. Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yeah.
Chairman Conover?
Yeah.
And resolution 627, this is the bond resolution. Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Maybe. Yeah.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Ms. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Now you just take a vote
Yep.
on all the rest.
Now we need a resolution collective on all the rest of it. Made by Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Wild. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor. Anyone like to
Doing the public, or you
do in the public first? Okay, seeing none, go ahead, Supervisor Dickinson.
I have a coal burning wood stove in my workshop. It's been really cold. I've burned a lot of coal. And I was just gonna offer Supervisor Beatty some help with his Christmas gifts there. If
I wouldn't want to take away your call, Mr. Dickinson. I'm a team player.
Always a pill. Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dickinson. You're always a kind soul. And more importantly, a funny soul. Little update on those charging stations. They went into operation Monday. We've had one person use it for 26 minutes. They are free right now. Next week, they will be getting charged to use it, but I just thought I'd give everybody a little update from Mr. Hajos. He wanted me to remind everyone. So now it begins. We've got 10 units, 5 units, 2 bays each, and let's hopefully we'll get some use out of those. And I also want to say thank you to Mr. Sokol and Ms. Hyde and Mr. Loeb. We've had a lot of laughs, on a lot of different issues, but more importantly, we've got a lot of hard work done, and we don't always see eye to eye, and I believe that makes good government, because when we all go down to the beach and sing Kumbaya, I think the end result is a little watered down. So I thank you, Mr. Sokol. I knew you'd get up there. I knew it.
It took 3 years to get a fake phone call.
Well, I think Mr. Conover figured out I said it to him. So I wanted you up there. Thank you, Mr. Loeb. You've been very insightful for the 2 years. I've been blown away by how much depth you bring to this board, and you've helped me on some other issues, some health issues even, and I'll never forget that. Thank you. And Ms. Hyde, thank you for being with us for 2 years. You've always been able to provide a smile. 3 years. That's right. How do time flies. So I thank you all, and Chairman Conover, you've done an amazing job for 3 years, keeping all of us in line and getting a great end product. And we thank you for that. So that concludes my little shtick.
Thank you. Thank you. Supervisor Thomas, did you have a?
Yes. I'd like to say I'm gonna miss Mr. Sokol and Mr. Loeb. Mr. Loeb, I've always enjoyed Bill. He brings a unique perspective to just about every issue. And I always appreciated that. Matt, from the green pants. And Cynthia, I'm gonna miss updates on my niece and my niece, great niece, I guess.
We're related.
Yeah.
My grandchildren.
Now, don't forget the pink ones on Easter, all right?
You're missing both pillars. You're going to miss one on each side of yourself. Yeah.
Keep your head up, and Chairman, thanks for the opportunity to keep on jobs.
Anyone else? Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our organizational meeting on January 3rd, the intent of this board is to appoint a new chairman. That's approximately 2 weeks away. I know that there's colleagues of mine here that are interested in the position. I'd like to request from them 3 questions that I have that will help me in making my decision on the next chairmanship position here in 2020. The first question is, I'd like to get an understanding of your goals and how you plan to achieve those goals. The second question I have is that how much time will you have to devote to that position? Every time I came to the county, I see Chairman Conover here tirelessly working at that position. So I think that's very important to have a good understanding of how much time you're going to be able to devote to that position. And third, one of the most important choices is the assembly of your team. I like to know in advance of the vote who your vice chairman's going to be in your budget office. This gives you approximately 2 weeks to work on these questions, and I'm looking forward to those answers prior to that vote on our organization. Thank you so much.
Would you like them emailed to you?
No, they can just share them with me at the organizational meeting when the appointments are to be made.
Supervisor.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sokol. I would like to mention, bring before us here that our outgoing sheriff, Sheriff York, has served this county well through his tenures. He's not here present to accept the accolades and such, but he should be recognized for making significant strides in improvement of the sheriff's office and the jail, and he has served us well, and wanted to extend our thanks to Sheriff York for all he's done.
Thank you. Supervisor Loeb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sounds nice. I just realized, sitting here for an hour and a half, that it would be a sad thing not to tell Dan Bruno that during the wintertime when you sit over here, where are your woolies?
That's why we're getting the energy audit done, and we're gonna fix that.
If I might say, I was going to get up the public speaking, but you took that away. I had some nice things to say about it. No, I'm serious. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anyone else? Announcements? No? No announcements? Then I guess we have a motion to adjourn. By Supervisor Beatty, seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan are one of New York's largest independently owned insurance agencies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.